Now, finally, I want to talk about an alpha test that very exclusive alpha test. You have to like go click a button on Steam to get into it. For Mecha Break. So Mecha Break is sort of it is a PvP mech team-based 3D action fucking smorgasbord clusterfuck game that looked really cool. I remember seeing like the first reveal trailer for it at a Summer Games Fest or something like that, or something I was streaming, like maybe the Game Awards. And I thought it looked cool. I hadn't thought about it in a while, and I found out that it was getting heavy. There was a previous alpha, and I just heard about the new one that happened recently. And I played a bit of it, and you know what? That is a cool-ass game. I'm not gonna lie, that is a cool-ass game. So Mecha Break is a team-based mech shooter, I suppose. If you're familiar with the Gundam EX Maxi Boost on whatever the hell those games are called with their crazy titles. Gundam Extreme Versus, I think, is the series. Kind of like that. 3D action games, team-based, all that jazz. Different objectives for different game types and maps and that sort of thing. Man, this game's really cool. Mecha Break is really intent on selling you the cool extreme part about mechs. You know? Like, I've put a lot of time into Titanfall. Titanfall, in many ways, feels like a very heavy game, right? Like, the mechs are supposed to be these big, heavy, grounded things that could exist in reality. Mecha Break is, like, really fucking anime. And you get that immediately during the tutorial when you jump, and you jump, like, at the speed of light, and you go up. They are like, no, these things are fast and powerful and tanky. They are big ass machines, and they are strong as hell. They are powered up. So the game is, I would say, character based. Yeah, it's like a character based shooter with lots of a couple characters who are mainly melee focused. Some who can switch between. Some who are, all sorts of different balancing of this or that. It's kind of hard to talk about because I feel like in many ways that's just a very apt description for most of the game. I guess I could just talk about what's cool about it. So the mechs are really cool. They were designed by let me look up his name. I forget his name. Mecha Break mech designers. Junya Ishigaki and Takayuki Yanase, who are, they have, Yanase has worked on, like, Gundam. He's worked on Eureka 7, Armored Core 6. Ishigaki worked on Xenogears and a bunch of Gundam stuff. So, like, pretty experienced mech designers. The mechs look cool. They do look cool. They're good mech designs. So first of all, cool robot. That's like the first thing you got to strike off. Next, holy shit. It took a little bit of adjustment to get like how hyper this game feels. The number one word I would use to describe this game is busy. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. So, man, there's a couple different movement options that are universal. So you can do, if you hit like shift, you can do I guess like a dodge. It's like a directional boost that you can do. And it is like you snap into that direction. You go, boom. And there's a big crack of energy. It's very powerful and fast. The jumps are just like that, but vertically, right? And then you can sprint. They're not really sprinting. They're just sort of like moving faster than they would have otherwise. Mech sprinting. They're just boosting. Uh, so like movement is very fast and very frenetic, and like dodging in and out of the way. You have like a limited amount of energy that refills when you're not doing stuff like that. I believe different mechs have different amounts of energy. So some of them can burn through it really fast, and some of them can just go for like ever before they have to take a breather. So fast, you end up with these super anime like dashing, zipping, zooping around, and it is a bit to kind of wrap your head around at first, or to like adjust your brain to the speed of how fast the characters are moving around. But once you get into it, it's got a nice feel. The mechs feel very good to pilot. They have a nice mix of... They have that weightiness, like I mentioned, but if you want to, you can move fast, which the universal movement options offer. The variety of mechs I thought was pretty satisfying. I didn't try out all of them. The nice thing about the alpha is that, so you do have to unlock mechs progressively as you go with like currency, but in the alpha they just give you a fuck ton of currency and you can just buy all of them to check stuff out. So I checked out a good number of them. I really liked Panther, which is a more melee, it's an all melee mech. What are they called? Breakers or strikers or something? I think they're called breakers. Panther's deal is that it's like a speedy kind of assassin, I guess. Its primary ability is it has this like lance that you can spin up super fast. You can hold the button down to start spinning the lance up. And then once you let go, Panther will dash forwards with like the lance extended, like it's jousting. And if you meet an enemy, you'll like pin them and pull them along and just continuously deal damage to them as you go until you stop or you hit a wall and then just like grind into them. Really cool. And then the alternate weapon that you have, you can switch it between a shield, which gives you kind of like a parry. Blocking in this game kind of sends you flying back and at a bit of a disadvantage. Or getting blocked in this game. There's a couple characters with shields, and they kind of have like a big bong, and then they'll bounce back, and sometimes you're punishable. I'm not sure what the rules are exactly. And then you can switch that to a sword, which is a more traditional / melee. So basically going around and then just jumping in and drilling people and just pinning them across the sky is really fun. Lots of aerial combat in this game. Oh yeah, because all the mechs can fly, naturally. They can all fly and all that. Some of them are built specifically for flying. Oh, I loved, what was it, Falcon? Or there's like two of them that have optional, they have transforming modes, which is great. That's a great thing to include in a game like this. There's a couple transforming mechs, and two of them turn into like planes and just zip. They just zoom. Like the feeling of speed is great. The maps are generally just big enough that you feel like you can move around and they can actually accommodate all the players, because it's like a 5v5 game, I think. 5v5 or 6v6, I forget. They can accommodate the number of players and how fast they're allowing you to go, while also being enclosed enough that the action is pretty consistent. I rarely felt like there were a couple moments where it just so happened that like everyone in the game was on the other side of the map from me, and I had to like do some boosting over. But you know, that's kind of on me. That sort of thing's just gonna happen in a multiplayer game. Pretty satisfied with the map design at the moment. When I talk about busyness, man, there's a lot of fucking voice lines that go on all the time. You have a little operator. You have an operator who's always like giving you information about the battle and the state of the, you know, an announcer essentially. And when you die, when you respawn. So essentially, when your mech gets totaled, there's an animation of your little custom created character which that create a character is pretty good. That's a pretty good like modern, in a post Street Fighter 6 world, that's a pretty good character creator. What was I saying? There's a little animation of them. You get to see them fairly often because every time you respawn, every time you die, there's an animation of them ejecting, like a shot of them in the seat and like hitting all the buttons until they eject. And then after your countdown timer, there's a whole reinitializing and dropping down back into the fight. And dude, there's like 3 or 4 voice lines that play every time you do it. It's like, back online, launching now. And then this update about the game, Stratum Shatterer deployed. And like constant noise and things like that. Like, maybe it would be nice to turn it down a little bit. Maybe the frequency down a little bit. But yeah, it definitely matches. It matches the aesthetic. It is excessive in many ways. Part of the point is excess, so I get it, and it didn't like bother me too much. But it was a fact. Like, you will notice it. It wasn't a negative. Just you'll notice it. The first mech you get is like this. I actually ended up liking it. I usually don't gravitate towards the balanced all-rounder type of mech, but I actually thought it was a cool design. It's also very easy to play. I forget what it's called, Alizny or something like that. Essentially, the gimmick is, and this kind of set me up for some expectations for the other mechs that were not met, because it's just designed in a different way, or like it has this gimmick where I'll explain. It has this gimmick where when you start, it has like this armor, right? And it has a couple different. It has like a gun and a sword, and it has like a couple different abilities, right? And then if your health gets totaled, you lose the armor, but you essentially get like a respawn. You basically get like a second wind, but as a smaller, lighter mech that is, I think, faster. But you're limited to like just. You only have like 2 weapons as opposed to, I think, like 3 or 4 different optional things that you had with the armor, because you had like a little activatable missile thing as well. Or like a cannon, something like that. You only have like gun and sword. And you get the option, and you also, I think, don't have as much energy or health. So you're like a squishier, lighter, weaker version, but you're still in the fight. And you get the option once per life to, when you're in that form, to call the armor back down for like essentially get like a supply drop, and that you're like invulnerable during it. So you can do some very cheeky fight until you get destroyed. You're invulnerable for a little bit, and then fight a little more, and then once your health starts dropping, call down the armor and like strategically time it, and like, well, okay, well, that's it, until you essentially get 2 more goes, because you're gonna have that and then the armorless form again, and then after that, nothing, until you're forced to respawn. That stuff was fun. A lot of abilities, this kind of threw me off. So there's an auto targeting system, which is good, probably good for a game like this. A lot of the abilities are, especially the guns, are on. You have to like charge them up, and then you release them. They activate on release. It's all on like negative edge, and that threw me off in the beginning because I'm kind of used to just click and it fires, but like almost nothing was happening. I couldn't really tell if I was doing damage. I couldn't really tell if there was an animation. And no, yeah, there are a lot of weapons that have to be charged up in order to get a little more shots out of them or something like that. Some of them are just automatic, like Gatling gun sort of weapons. But a lot have to be like charged up, which is cool. I got used to it. It wasn't a problem. Just threw me off for a bit. All of the mechs have their own sort of unique little setups. There's a guy he's like a melee fighter with a big axe, and it has a move where you basically make you make a cube around you that like traps opponents inside, which is cool. It reminded me, I was just doing combo trials for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite the other night, And that's like exactly how the Space Stone works in that game. When you with like the full like super move that the Space Stone gives you. So that's funny. There's one that has like a turret form where you just like hunker down and you take almost no damage from the sides, but you are like a spitting death machine. There's the plain ones that I mentioned. There's 2 different snipers that have a little bit of different flavors of snipers. One of them is a little lighter and can like move around, is more mobile, and can actually like I think shoot in the air. I think that's the one. And the other one can't shoot in the air, but it's like either more damage or something like that, or less mobile or something along those lines. You're a lot of like trade-offs between mobility. Mobility seems like a big deal in the game. Mobility, damage, time to charge something up, specific little individual abilities and stuff like that. And it's I really like what they're doing. It's definitely got like, it needs some polish, but the basic core game is really fun. I had a very good time with it. I ended up dropping like, what does Steam say? Almost 7 hours into it. In like I only played one session, but it was like a good like 7-hour session. I just sat there and I was like, man, I'm not working on a video now. I'm going to play this game. And I had a good time with it. So it was just an alpha. I imagine there's going to be more content, more characters, polishing, characters' kits might get reworked. This thing might get expanded. But the basic core of the game is very solid and very promising. I think this is a hard thing to fuck up. This is a difficult foundation to actually screw up in a final release. So, if this game interests you at all, if you like mechs, if you like the team stuff was not too crazy. I felt like that was the other thing, is it's not too crazy reliant on team play, which I think is important for a team game. It's important for it not to be reliant. That's what I mean, which sounds counterintuitive, but it's true. I felt like I could generally kind of do my own thing, but obviously if you're in a 2-on-1, it's a big help. I don't know. I never felt like I was being forced to work with a team, but generally we were all kind of doing the same thing, which helped a lot. Sometimes there were occasions where I was like, okay, my team is just not focusing on doing the actual objective. So that was a little annoying, but I mean, like, hey, what are you going to do? Also, games are pretty short. Match length was pretty short, like maybe 10 minutes. So pretty bite-sized. You can jump in, play a couple games, get some stuff, yada yada. Yeah, I would be, if any of that sounds interesting to you, keep your eye on it. Wish list it, so if there's like a new beta or an alpha or whatever. And I'm curious. I'm definitely down to play the next alpha that comes out, or the next test. I'd love to see how they change it, if there's anything more. Yeah, Mecha Break. Be on the lookout for that.